My son stood in the kitchen, looked me directly in the eye, and said, "You raised us, Mom. That was your job. Don't expect anything now." Those words were not merely painful, they altered everything. He was unaware that 3 months prior I had transferred the deed to my house, not to him or his brother, but to Maria, the woman who truly supported me when I needed it most. When he lost his apartment and arrived with his belongings, anticipating to move into what he believed was still my home, the situation became complex. My name is Claire, and I am 72 years old, speaking to you from Portland, Oregon, where I have resided for over 4 decades. Before we proceed, I would appreciate knowing your location. Please share in the comments below. If this narrative resonates with you, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. What I am about to share is challenging to discuss. It concerns the distinction between the family you raise and the family you choose. I married at 23, soon after graduating from secretarial school, deeply in love with Robert Henderson, who worked in lumber management. Together, we built a life in a modest 3-bedroom house in a neighborhood where everyone knew each other. We had 2 sons, Daniel, followed by Andrew 3 years later. I relinquished my career to raise them, as was customary at the time. Robert worked long hours, often leaving before dawn, while I managed everything at home: cooking, cleaning, medical appointments, parent-teacher conferences, birthday celebrations, late-night fevers, homework challenges, and teenage heartbreaks. I cherished motherhood and dedicated myself entirely to my sons. When Daniel expressed interest in hockey, I took on alteration work from home, staying up late to hem pants for neighbors. When Andrew needed a math tutor, I organized weekend yard sales to fund it. When they sought college education, Robert and I secured loans that would take years to repay. Daniel attended the University of Washington, while Andrew chose San Diego State, becoming the first generation of college graduates in our families. We made it work, even postponing Robert's retirement by 5 years. I vividly recall standing in Daniel's dorm room on his first day, trying to hold back tears. "You did well, Mom," he said, hugging me. "I wouldn't be here without you." Those words meant everything. Robert passed away 11 years ago from a heart attack at the age of 64, leaving me alone. The boys attended the funeral, offering their condolences and promising to be there for me. By then, Daniel lived in Seattle, working in technology, and Andrew had relocated to California for a career in real estate. After the funeral, they stayed for 2 days before returning to work. The frequency of calls diminished, and visits became limited to holidays, then even that became scarce. Years passed without seeing my grandchildren. I sent birthday cards with $50 checks and carefully chosen Christmas gifts, receiving brief text acknowledgments in return. I convinced myself this was normal. Children grow up, move away, and build their own lives. I didn't want to be the mother who complained, unlike friends whose children distanced themselves further. So I remained silent. I volunteered at the local library 3 mornings a week, joined a book club, and took watercolor classes at the community center. I kept myself busy, but I was lonely. The house felt vast, echoing with memories. I would walk past my son's old rooms, maintained just as they had left them, and feel the weight of their absence. I would prepare dinner, realizing I was still cooking for 4 out of habit. The silence was deafening. Then, 3 years ago, I had a fall. It was foolish, really. Late October, the gutters clogged with leaves. After Robert's death, I had initially hired someone to help, but I eventually felt it was wasteful for something I could manage. So there I was, at 70, on a ladder. I leaned too far, reaching for wet leaves, and the ladder shifted, causing me to fall hard onto the concrete. The pain was excruciating. My neighbor, Patricia, heard my cry and called 911. The hospital informed me I was fortunate nothing was broken, just deep tissue damage. But recovery at 69 isn't swift. The doctor was straightforward. I would need help at home for weeks, maybe months. I called Daniel from the hospital bed. "Mom, I'm swamped," he replied, the sound of keyboard clicking in the background. "We're launching a new product, 14-hour days. Can you hire someone? I can send money if you need it." I didn't require money. I needed my son, but I said nothing. I reached out to Andrew. "Mom, Jessica's mother is staying with us after surgery. The house is full for another month. There are agencies for this, professional caregivers, probably better anyway. Translation: You're not our responsibility. That's when Maria Rodriguez entered my life. The agency sent her the day I returned home. At 54, a widow with 20 years of experience as a home health aide, she was different from the start. She didn't just fulfill her duties, she cared. Every morning at 8 sharp, she arrived to assist with my needs, medications, meals, but she also engaged me in genuine conversation, asking about my life, my interests, my stories. She shared pictures of her children and recounted tales of her late husband, Carlos, who had died in a construction accident 12 years prior. Two widows sharing the understanding of loss developed a friendship, one based on mutual care. 3 months later, when I had recovered enough not to require daily assistance, I invited her to stay twice weekly for heavier cleaning and companionship. She accepted without hesitation. These visits became the highlight of my week. Maria remembered the little things, how I took my coffee, my shellfish allergy, and my preference for mysteries, but not overly violent ones. She would bring books she found at sales and share her homemade tamales. For my 70th birthday, she organized a party, inviting my book club, neighbors, and library friends. While my sons called, they did not visit. Maria baked a cake from scratch, decorated my home, and made me feel valued. That birthday crystallized everything. I had raised 2 sons for decades, and they managed perhaps one call a month. In contrast, this woman who owed me nothing demonstrated more consistent kindness in a few months than my children had in years. I'm not suggesting my sons were terrible people. They paid bills, raised families, and likely excelled at work. They simply did not consider me much. I had become background noise, the mother who was always there, always fine, never needing anything. About 2 years ago, cracks in our relationship began to surface. Andrew called on a Tuesday afternoon, an unusual time. His voice carried a tone that suggested he required something. "I'm in a situation, Mom. A real estate flip went badly. The contractor disappeared halfway through with a significant sum of money. I need about $20,000 for a new contractor." Processing that substantial figure took time. "That's considerable, Andrew." "I know, but Dad's life insurance left you comfortable, right? The house is paid off. You're set. I'll repay you in 6 months, with interest if you wish." I had the money. Robert's insurance and our savings provided security. What kind of mother would refuse to assist her son in crisis? "I'll transfer it tomorrow." "Thank you, Mom. You're saving my life." The next day, I sent $20,000 and watched my account balance diminish. It stung, but he was my son. That's what mothers do. 6 months passed, then a year, and not a dollar was returned. During a Christmas call, I gently broached the topic. He grew defensive. "Mom, I'm barely keeping my head above water. You're not struggling, are you? You have that insurance money and no mortgage." What could I say? He made me sound greedy for inquiring. 6 months later, Daniel called. His daughter needed assistance with college tuition. "We're short $15,000 for Emily's first year. She's your granddaughter, Mom. Her future is at stake." Financial aid wasn't sufficient. I sent $15,000. It was never repaid. When I eventually asked, his response mirrored Andrew's. "Mom, you're in a paid-off house. We have mortgages, kids, and expenses. This is what family does." However, help flowed only in one direction. Meanwhile, Maria continued to visit twice weekly, like clockwork. When I caught a severe flu, she came daily until I recovered, refusing extra pay. "You're my friend. Friends take care of each other." When my water heater flooded the basement, she connected me with her nephew, who fixed it at cost without upselling. During particularly low moments around Robert's death anniversary, she took me to lunch, allowing me to talk for hours. I began contemplating my future seriously. At 71, I was reasonably healthy, but mortality waits for no one. What would happen if I became seriously ill and required extensive care? Would my sons come to my aid? Would they drop their lives for me as I had for them? Deep down, I knew the answer. They would likely find me a facility, visiting occasionally out of obligation. I would die surrounded by strangers while they continued their busy lives, perhaps feeling guilty but not guilty enough to change anything. This realization prompted me to visit James Thornton's office. He had been my lawyer since Robert's passing, managing everything from life insurance to the will. I trusted him, which was crucial for what I was about to do. "Claire," he said after I explained my plan, I need to ensure you fully understand this. You want to transfer your house deed to someone outside your family? She is family, I asserted firmly. More family than blood has been. He leaned back, contemplating my words. I'm not judging, but once you sign, the house legally belongs to Maria Rodriguez. You'll have a life estate allowing you to live there as long as you wish, but ownership transfers to her. Your sons won't inherit it. Are you completely clear on that? Crystal clear. He outlined every implication, life estate details, property taxes, and how it couldn't be easily reversed. He cautioned that my sons might contest it and could be upset, indicating that family dynamics would change permanently. What about your sons? He finally asked. What about them? This is my house, my decision. It was never theirs to begin with. He didn't press further, knowing me well enough to recognize when my mind was made up. All right, I'll prepare the paperwork. But Claire, I recommend one more step, a psychological evaluation documenting your sound mind to protect both you and Maria if your sons challenge this. I agreed and met with a psychologist who posed extensive questions regarding my reasoning, my relationships with my sons and Maria, and my understanding of the consequences. She determined I was completely competent, making this decision with full awareness. 2 weeks later, I sat in James's office with Maria beside me. He reiterated everything. Before he finished, she began to cry. I can't accept this, she said, her voice cracking. It's too much. This is your home, I gently corrected. It was my house. You made it a home again. There's a difference. I need to know that when I can't care for myself, I won't be warehoused in some facility and forgotten. I need someone who genuinely cares. You've given me more in 2 years than most receive in lifetimes: dignity, friendship, reasons to wake up and look forward to each day. She tried to refuse multiple times, concerned about appearances and what my sons would say, questioning whether she was taking advantage. James reassured her everything was legal and above board. I insisted that this was what I needed. Finally, tears streaming down her face, she accepted. We signed the papers on a Thursday afternoon in March. The house that Robert and I had purchased 43 years ago, where I had raised my children, holding every memory of my adult life, became Maria's. A profound sense of peace settled over me, deeper than I had felt in years. The uncertainty about my future and who would care for me lifted. I had made a decision for myself, and it felt right. I chose not to inform my sons. There was no reason to. The house had never belonged to them. Life continued normally after that. Maria still visited twice weekly, even though she now owned the property. Our dynamic remained unchanged. I volunteered, attended my book club, and took watercolor classes. I had accepted my son's distance and stopped expecting change. Then, 4 months ago, everything erupted. Daniel called on a Tuesday evening while I was preparing pasta. His name on the screen surprised me, an unusual occurrence. Mom, he said, his voice strained, I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. That tone never preceded good news. What's wrong? I lost my job. The company laid off several employees last week. After 15 years, they cut me loose. The severance package isn't sufficient. I felt genuine sympathy. Losing a job after so long must be devastating. I'm so sorry, Daniel. How are you holding up? We're stressed. Sarah works part-time at a clinic, but it's not enough. And Mom, we had to give up our apartment lease. Seattle rent is exorbitant. Without my income, we can't manage. I knew precisely where this conversation was heading. So we were thinking maybe we could stay with you for a while, just until I find something new. A few months, probably. The kids could get to know their grandmother better. You have 3 bedrooms, just you there. It makes sense. This was not a request. It was an assumption, a plan already laid out. Daniel, we need to discuss this. What's there to discuss? Frustration edged his voice. You have space. We're family, Mom. This is what family does. When were you planning to come? Next weekend. We've packed most of our things already and have a storage unit for the furniture, but we need somewhere to land next weekend. All of this had been decided without actually asking me, without considering that I might have my own life, plans, and autonomy. They assumed I would be available and willing to upend everything simply because that's what mothers do. My hands trembled as I set down my cooking spoon. Daniel, there's something you need to know. What? The house isn't mine anymore. Silence. A heavy, dangerous silence filled the air. I could hear him breathing, thoughts racing. What do you mean it's not yours? I transferred the deed 2 years ago. I have a life estate, so I can live here indefinitely, but I'm not the owner. You gave it to Andrew? His voice rose. Are you serious right now? You gave him the house? I didn't give it to Andrew. Then who? He was shouting now. Who the hell did you give our house to? It wasn't your house, Daniel. It was mine, and I gave it to someone who earned it. What does that mean? Who earned it? Maria, my caregiver? The explosion was immediate. You gave our inheritance to your housekeeper. Have you lost your mind? This is my decision, I interrupted, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. Made with full legal counsel and a psychological evaluation confirming my competence. Maria has been more family in 2 years than you have been in 10. I'm calling Andrew. He hung up. Within an hour, both sons had me on a conference call, both furious. You gave our house to a stranger? Andrew demanded. She's not a stranger, and it was never your house. We're your sons, Daniel shouted. That house should have come to us. That's our inheritance. Why? I kept my voice calm, which seemed to infuriate them further. Give me one reason you deserve it. Because we're your family. You're my family when you need something, I replied quietly. Where were you when I fell and couldn't walk? Where were you on holidays? Where were you when I asked about the money you both promised to repay? You're my family when it's convenient, when there's something in it for you. That's not family, that's biology. We have our own lives, Andrew said. We can't drop everything to babysit you. There it was, babysit, as if caring for your mother was a chore, an inconvenience to resent. I never asked you to babysit me. I asked you to be my sons. There's a difference. You made your choice long ago. I finally made mine. This is insane, Daniel said. She groomed you for this. She probably planned it from the beginning. We're getting a lawyer. Go ahead, I said calmly. James Thornton prepared everything. I was psychologically evaluated to ensure sound mind, full legal counsel throughout. Everything is proper, legal, and binding. You won't win. But waste your money trying if it makes you feel better. We'll see about that, Andrew snarled. You raised us. You're right. That was your job, what parents do. You don't get a medal for doing what you're supposed to do. And you sure as hell don't get to throw away our inheritance because we didn't visit enough. Those words lingered in the air. That was your job. You don't get a medal for doing what you're supposed to do. There it is, I said quietly. That's what you really think. Raising you was just a job. Something I was supposed to do. No different than if I had been hired. I didn't mean it like that, Andrew backtracked, realizing how it sounded. Yes, you did. And you're right. It was a job, 20+ years of unpaid labor. I just gave myself a retirement package, peace of mind, and someone who genuinely cares whether I'm alive or dead. Good luck with your lawyer. Goodbye. I hung up and turned off my phone. My hands were shaking, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might have a heart attack. Yet beneath the adrenaline and confrontation, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Power. I had finally stood up for myself after decades of being taken for granted. I called Maria to share what had happened. She arrived within 30 minutes, despite it not being her scheduled day. She didn't say much, just sat with me, holding my hand while I processed everything. Did I do the right thing? I asked. You did the brave thing, she replied softly. That's even better. But it wasn't over. Daniel showed up anyway. The following Saturday, precisely when he had planned, a rental truck pulled up outside. I watched from the living room window as he, Sarah, and their 2 children climbed out. He had the audacity to start unloading boxes onto my driveway. I opened the door before he could ring the bell. You need to leave, I said. Mom, come on, don't be like this. He attempted to sound reasonable, but anger burned in his eyes. We can work something out. You can't just turn us away. There's nothing to work out. This isn't my house to offer you. Where's this Maria person? He looked past me into the house. I want to talk to her, hear her side of this scam. She didn't scam anyone, Daniel. She earned it through genuine care and consistent presence, something you might try sometime. Sarah stepped forward, attempting a softer approach. Claire, please, we have children. We have nowhere else to go. Can't we just talk inside? You had months to figure this out, I replied, meaning every word. Daniel knew he was losing his job. You both had time to make plans and find solutions. The choices that led you here are not my responsibility to resolve. You assumed you could come because you thought I had no choice but to take you in. You were wrong. We're family, Sarah's voice cracked. I saw tears. For a moment, I almost wavered. Almost. Then act like it, I said firmly. Family doesn't only show up when they need something. Family doesn't treat you like a job they clocked out of years ago. Family doesn't calculate what they can extract from you, then disappear until the next crisis. Family shows up, not just when convenient or desperate. They show up. Daniel's face flushed red, pure anger replacing any attempt at reasoning. You're going to regret this. You'll end up alone, miserable, with no one to blame but yourself. I'd rather be alone than disrespected in my own home, I countered. And I'm not alone. That's what you don't understand. I have people who genuinely care about me. They're just not related by blood. Now, please leave, or I'll call the police. You'd call the cops on your own son? You're trespassing on property that doesn't belong to me. So yes, I would. They left. Boxes returned to the truck. Their children looked confused and upset. I felt bad about that, but not enough to change my mind. I watched them drive away and close the door. Then I sat on my couch and cried, not from sadness, but from relief. From the release of finally standing up for myself after a lifetime of being taken for granted. Maria came over again that evening, bringing soup she had made, sitting with me while I ate. We didn't talk much, we didn't need to. Her presence was enough. They'll probably try to fight it legally, I said eventually. Let them try, she replied. You did everything right. They have no case. She was correct. The lawyer calls began next, exactly as expected. Andrew hired an attorney who sent threatening letters about undue influence, mental competency challenges, and exploitation of vulnerable elderly individuals, all the predictable arguments. James Thornton handled it expertly. He responded with a psychological evaluation, documentation of the entire process, and proof that I had acted with full awareness and legal counsel throughout. The attorney attempted to argue that Maria had manipulated me, but there was no evidence because it hadn't occurred. Every interaction we had was documented. My book club friends could testify to our genuine relationship. My neighbors witnessed our friendship develop naturally over the years. The threatening letters cited cases of caregiver exploitation, demanded the deed transfer be reversed, and threatened court action. James addressed each one methodically. He included testimony from my psychologist, medical records indicating I was healthy and competent, and bank statements proving Maria had never accessed my accounts, requested money, or pressured me financially. He included statements from neighbors. Patricia next door wrote about observing Maria care for me following my fall, and how she had seen our friendship blossom. My book club friends wrote about meeting Maria at my birthday party and how genuine our connection appeared. The attorney continued to push for 6 weeks, sending increasingly aggressive letters, demanding meetings, and threatening to depose me and Maria, taking everything to court. Then suddenly, silence. The letters ceased. No more calls. Nothing. James called me one Wednesday afternoon. They've dropped it, he said. Andrew's attorney probably informed him of the truth. They have no case. You were evaluated, everything was done properly, and there's no evidence of manipulation or undue influence. They'd be wasting money pursuing it. So it's over. The house is legally and permanently Maria's. Your sons can't touch it. A weight lifted that I hadn't even realized I had been carrying. The legal threat had loomed in the background, a low-grade anxiety I had been living with. Now it was gone. But something else vanished as well. The phone calls from my son stopped entirely. Not just reduced, stopped. No more texts, no more occasional "how are you" messages, nothing. Radio silence. I anticipated grief, waiting to feel the loss of my children, the finality of severed relationships, and for regret to creep in, hoping I had made the right decision. It never came. Instead, I felt lighter, as if I had been carrying a weight so long I thought it was part of me, and now I had finally set it down. The weight of obligation, the weight of waiting for them to care, the weight of hoping things would change. I stopped checking my phone, hoping for their names to appear on the screen. I ceased composing texts I never sent, or rehearsing conversations where I explained myself, or they finally understood. If you are watching this and have followed my story this far, thank you. If this narrative resonates with you, if you felt this kind of pain from those who should love you, please hit that subscribe button. You are not alone in this. None of us are. Maria noticed the change in me. You seem different, she remarked one afternoon while we were having coffee in my kitchen. Our kitchen, technically, but it still felt like mine, like ours. I feel free, I confessed. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I feel free. She smiled, understanding without needing further explanation. We had discussed it enough over the months. She knew what my son's rejection meant, how it hurt, but also how it clarified things. You gave them everything, she said. Your time, your money, your energy, your life, and they took it all as their due. You don't owe them anything more. She was right. I had given my sons everything a mother could offer, sacrificing my career, my dreams, my financial security, taking out loans for their education, sending them money they never repaid, and consistently showing up for them while they couldn't be bothered to show up for me. Life continued. Maria and I established new rhythms. Our twice-weekly visits became 3 times a week, not because I needed care, but because we enjoyed each other's company. She began bringing her daughter, Sophia, a lovely woman who worked as a teacher. Sophia shared stories about her students and showed me pictures her kids had drawn. I met Maria's son, Miguel, who worked in construction like his late father. He came over one Saturday to fix a loose board on my porch steps and refused payment. You're family now, he stated simply. That word, family, from someone who had no biological obligation to consider me such. As Thanksgiving approached, I prepared for my first holiday without even the pretense of my son's calling. I braced myself for sadness and that hollow feeling of being alone during the holidays. Maria called me on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. "What are you doing Thursday?" she asked. "Nothing special. Probably just a small turkey breast and some television." "No," she insisted firmly. "You're coming to my house. Sophia is cooking. Miguel and his wife will be there with their kids. We have plenty of room. You're coming." "Maria, that's your family time." "Your family," she interrupted. "Stop arguing and be there at 2. I went, walking into Maria's modest home that Thursday afternoon, enveloped in warmth, the aroma of roasting turkey, the sound of children laughing, and the mingling of Spanish and English in conversation. Sophia hugged me at the door. Miguel's kids called me Abuela Claire, a title that brought tears to my eyes. We feasted until we were full, shared stories, and laughed. Sophia expressed genuine interest in my watercolor paintings, while Miguel inquired about Robert, listening intently to my memories. They made room for me at their table, not out of obligation, but out of genuine warmth. I wasn't the elderly woman they felt duty-bound to include. I was someone they wanted there. That's when it hit me fully. The difference between being wanted and being obligated. My sons had seen me as an obligation for years, something they had to manage, deal with occasionally, and keep in their peripheral vision out of duty. In contrast, Maria's family wanted me there, recognizing that I added value to their gathering, not merely someone who required accommodation. That evening, I returned home feeling fulfilled in ways that had nothing to do with food. I had spent Thanksgiving surrounded by love, real love, the kind that shows up, makes space, and celebrates your presence. It has been 4 months since Daniel attempted to move in, 4 months since my sons told me raising them was merely my job, 4 months since I chose myself. I have not heard from either of them. No calls, no texts, no emails, complete silence. I imagine they are sharing their version of events with friends, wives, and perhaps even my grandchildren. The ungrateful mother who gave away their inheritance to a stranger, the selfish woman who turned her back on family. Let them tell whatever story helps them sleep. I know the truth. I was a good mother, perhaps too good. I gave until there was nothing left to give, and they learned to expect it as their right. They learned my love was unconditional and unlimited, and I never taught them about reciprocity, mutual respect, or the importance of showing up. That's partly on me. I enabled it by never setting boundaries, never saying no, and never demanding they treat me with basic dignity. But I am teaching them now, even if the lesson comes decades too late for our relationship to recover. The house feels different now, lighter somehow. Maria and I converted Daniel's old room into an art studio for my watercolors, while Andrew's room became a proper guest room for Sophia when she needs a quiet weekend. The museum dedicated to my son's childhoods has transformed into spaces for actual living. Maria officially moved in 2 months ago. We made that decision together as she sold her smaller place and joined me here. We are housemates in the truest sense. She occupies the master bedroom, while I prefer my smaller room. We share cooking duties, cleaning, everything. It's companionable and comfortable, like what I imagine having a sister would be. I am 72 years old. I could have 5 years left, or perhaps 20. No one knows. But I understand how I will spend whatever time remains, surrounded by people who choose me, who value my presence, who show up not because they have to, but because they want to. Maria's family has become mine. Sophia calls just to chat about her day, and Miguel stops by to see if anything needs fixing. The grandchildren create artwork that now decorates my refrigerator, drawings from children who genuinely know me and look forward to seeing me. When my time comes, I will depart knowing I stood up for myself, that I was not merely a job someone had to do, and that I was truly loved by someone who had no obligation to love me. My sons may show up at my funeral, they may not. Either way, it will not matter. I will be surrounded by the family I chose, the family that chose me back. Blood does not entitle anyone to your dignity. That is what I have learned. You can love someone and still refuse to let them disrespect you. You can honor the role you played in their lives while acknowledging they do not honor the role they should play in yours. I gave my house to the person who made it a home. I gave my peace back to myself, and I have absolutely no regrets. That is my story, my truth, and I am finally completely at peace with it. Please subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. With love and respect.